Michael E. Parker here, and we are ready for another YouTube episode. Have you ever thought about which career is best for you? Now, believe it or not, this is something that many people struggle with. We all, at different times in our life, especially early on in our life, we start to think about, what am I going to be? What am I going to do? What is it that I want to actually every day give my life to generate income from my family, doing something that I enjoy? Now, this is something that just doesn't happen in the beginning. It happens even later in life. We start to think about, what am I actually going to do? What is actually going to be that something that I can sink my teeth into that's going to cause me to wake up, feeling good about, my career and what I'm doing to actually create a livelihood. Now, we're going to talk about this and unpack this a little bit and give you some advice and some tips that I often talk to people about when they're confronted with this question of what do I do? What do I want to become? Whether that's a young person or someone who's, deep into their career and trying to make a career change, or someone that is in the later part of their years and trying to think about, what am I going to do now? I've provided a lot to the workforce, and now I'm trying to revisit what I want to do next, what I want to do now. Now, this reminds me and takes me back for a little bit, just kind of thinking about, certain things that I've been through. I remember, coming through high school, starting to think about what I want to do, what I want to be. And I remember thinking, I wanted to be an engineer. I liked to understand how things worked. I liked, considering the way things moved, how things, happen in terms of, maybe how things come together. So I really felt like maybe I wanted to be an engineer. And I started to get exposed to some opportunities where I had a chance to find out more about different jobs, different things that people were doing. And so I was able to, I didn't realize that there was different types of engineers, right? But I just, heard the term engineer. I understood that they, maybe was involved in how things came together, like a building or designing something or, a city or all these different things. So I remember I went out and I was able to spend some time with an engineer. I was able to spend, the day, I got in this guy's car. His car was all, and maybe he wasn't the best representation of what an engineer was, but I got in his car and he, the car wasn't well kept. And then, I went from there and we went to a job site. I had to put a hard hat on and we was walking out in the dirt, and I was starting to, go around and start to, walk this job site and just understand and seeing different things that were happening on that job site. And, the next thing I knew, I had, some dirt on my pants and my jeans, and I was, walking around. I'll never forget getting back in the car and then ending up, getting home at some point and realizing this was definitely not what I wanted to do. And I really didn't understand that at that moment I was dealing with a work environment versus the actual work itself, and understand the distinctions between the two. And this is going to be important for some things we'll talk about here in a minute, but I was beginning to get a reality of what it felt like to be in that environment. Now, this was just one day. I couldn't get exposed to all the things that job may provided, and maybe there was different types of things I would have seen and felt and heard, in that type of experience. But at the moment, I was only absorbing what I had felt and understood. And this is a big challenge when we're thinking about our career. We're thinking about, what are the things that I'm going to like, and I've not been in the situation, so I'm not really sure. I don't know if any of you have been in that situation out there where sometimes you're saying, I think I know what I like. I'm not sure. And people are telling you what they think you're good at. You're seeing other people who do things. You start measuring yourself by other people that are around you, right? And so that's a very, very, challenging thing. I'm gonna go to the whiteboard here for a minute, and I want you to think about for a minute, a lot of times, here we are, and we might have, different people that are around us. And let's say, this person kind of went into the business area, and we have another person here, right? And this is another friend, and they went into the medical area, right? And you start to think, right? You're starting to try to wonder, what is it that I should do? And oftentimes we start to view and look at what those individuals are doing. And we start to measure back to ourselves by what the people around us are doing. And we might have friends that are different, careers, different things that they've done, different things that they focus on, and yet not realize that these particular things are not what's best for you. But even though these are people that are close to you, they are different than you. And so you start to measure. I mean, you even start looking at things on television. You start to measure by things you're seeing on social media, and you're wondering, what would life be like if I could be that person, if I could be involved in what they're doing, if I could do something similar to what they're doing. And all these people, it always seems like they're just the happiest ever, right? These people are super happy, and you start to wonder, well, how do I find myself? What is actually best for me? Well, there are some things I want you to keep in mind, and things I want you to understand that you should always do when you're starting to consider what is actually best for you. Now, when you're thinking about this, I want to, invite you to really consider a few things. So one thing that we want to always consider is we have to understand what are the skill sets. So let's look at skills, right? And different skills and abilities that you have. What are some things that you feel that you really enjoy using, skills you enjoy using, abilities you enjoy using, right? So you can get more technical about skills versus abilities and things, but for today, I'm only focusing on, the whatever it is that you have, that you like, that you're good at, right? So you might say, I like communicating, right? Well, let's get even more specific here, because communication can have many layers. Let's say I like talking to people, right? So I really like talking to people. Somebody might like, they might really enjoy dealing with math. Someone might enjoy analyzing things. Some might enjoy problem solving, right? These are all different things someone may enjoy. Somebody might enjoy writing, right? They really like to write. Some people like creativity, right? And I could be more specific, but let's say, they like creativity. Some people like let's say building teams. They really enjoy building teams, seeing people kind of work together. Maybe another one might be someone likes to sell, right? So they like sales, like actually selling someone on something to buy and to purchase, right? So this is important when you're considering skills. Because you should always think about what are those things that just seem to come natural to you, just seem to come comfortable to you. It just seems like it just flows when you're doing that, and it just begins to happen. What are those things? And then another key thing is environment, right? So environment, when you think about environment, now you have to start thinking about, do I like being outdoors? Do I like working outdoors? Do I like the office setting, right? These are very important questions. Do I like being, more tied to the desk where I can focus on my work and not have a lot of distractions? Do I like being on the go, right? Do I like intensity, like intense, where there's a lot of intense activity, stuff to keep you stimulated, things that are happening? Do I like to work, with minimal distraction, right? So all of these are very important considerations, and you're thinking about. So you'll notice we haven't talked yet about a career or anything of that sort, and yet we're considering some really key things, right? And And again, and I also would add in here, do I like working, fix that, working alone or with a team, right? So these are real critical questions. And sometimes we jump right to, wondering, what career do I want? But we don't think deeply about these things. And now what you begin to do is you start to understand and build a bridge and find that connection between the two things. So you find the environment and the skills that you have, and you start to put those two together to start thinking about what type of career opportunity can you begin to create. So think about it. This is the step that people miss. They jump right to this career area, right? And they start thinking about, how can I create this optimal career? But they forget to really think deeply about what are the things that come easy to them. When we think about skills, we're thinking about proficient. It's something that I'm proficient in, something I'm able to do well. You're also thinking about things that people often tell you that they notice that you do easily. They begin to, if you consistently hear people telling you they love, to have you to do whatever, like you're a good negotiator, you're a good person to, you're planning a trip and everyone wants you to organize it, right? That's another big one, right? You have a really good ability to organize, right? You like to plan, right? You like everything to be in its place. You're very operational, right? You think about how things need to operate to get, to actually get something done. So the key is, before you go jump into a career, this is the point as you start thinking about, here's where people make a big mistake. They say, well, I like talking to people, right? But they think that they might say, well, I want to go into sales as a career. Well, you have to talk to people in many jobs, many careers. You have to talk to people in the hospital industry. You have to talk to people if you were working as, a particular, person in a specific career that might have to work with different teams. And there's a lot of communication within a company. It's not dealing with sales at all, but there's a lot of communication. It requires a lot of talking and communicating to solve problems. You have to understand, where is that skill set? That skill set can be used in many different careers. So people will translate certain skill sets with certain careers, and it's not necessarily true. Some of those skill sets are skill sets that transcend any one career. So what you want to do is you want to understand those things that you really like, and then you want to think about what type of environment that you really, really enjoy, right? So you think about, I like talking to people, but I like being tied to the desk. So this might be more of a call center type of thing. Like, I love talking to people, or I'm someone that I can be able to be a receptionist or a hostess, someone that is doing hospitality, for example, right? This could be very, very key because I'm making a connection between the skill set and the environment. So I hope you can see that. Let's do another one. We'll get a different color here. Let's say I like problem solving. And I like the outdoors, right? So you start thinking about, what are some things that are outdoors but require me to solve problems, right? And I might find that there's particular jobs. I might be able to work with a job working for the city or working in a particular organization that has a lot of community outreach, in which you go out and you solve problems in the community, and just making this up. But there can be many different things that you start looking at and you start checking off. Does this allow me to do this? Does this career have a dominant area of me using my skill set to create the most value? And is it able to allow me to be in an environment where I tend to prosper, where I enjoy? So sometimes, because people don't think about both, they just run to the thing that they might think they're good at, or they run to the thing that, is just an opportunity to make money, but they don't find that lasting fulfillment because they don't consider how does skill set and environment work together to create the optimal career for you. Some people like working with children. Some people like, working with the elderly. Some people like caring for people, like all these things. But then you have to think about, well, what type of environment, though, do you want to do that? And then that begins to lead us, and we start to think about different careers, right? So, there are people, as I mentioned, who want to get into sales. Some who want to be nurses, right? Some that wants to be go and be, maybe a specialist in some sort of business area, right? And when you think about that, they start to really consider that. Some might want to go into technology, right? Because they like math and they like being tied to the desk, and they start understanding the mathematical aspect of technology. So when you start to understand that each career, whatever career that you choose, that you have to combine the distinction between skill set, and environment. Because when you begin to understand that, then you're talking about building a lasting career. I never forget getting into my optimal job, my optimal position where I was working for Toyota, and I found an environment that I really liked because it was highly operational, and I was able to use a lot of my operational skill sets. I was able to work with people, solve problems, use a lot of that engineering background, and think about it. I began to find out, later on, I want you to see how this happened to me, where I had a skill set for operations, organization, dealing with people and so forth. I like understanding how things come together, but I like the office environment. So this really led me to business, but a specific aspect of business operations. So I want you to see that, for example, here. So I want you to notice here. So I went from the enjoyment of engineering, right? Architecture type of things, right? Operational stuff. And then, combining this with liking, in terms of liking business, liking, the ability to actually create products. Like I like inventing things, right? And all of this led me to business operations, right? And I was able to get a degree in business operations that allowed me to combine the things that I actually enjoyed and thinking about the environment that I enjoyed them in, and I start to move down a career path. And even though I begin to get into something like Toyota, where now here's an environment where there's an operational mecca from Japan to Canada to North America, getting all these different experiences in business, I start to understand and see operations at the highest level. But eventually, because I wasn't really, manufacturing wasn't really what I enjoy. I don't enjoy manufacturing, right? Even though I know all about it and I love it, and I like the operation of it, but the hard hats and the boots and, all the assembly lines. So what I began to do is I matured into understanding how to take that knowledge and then to put that knowledge into the service industry, where I took things that I learned and I was able to couple that to find my optimal, right? My optimal situation. So when I can begin to take my skill set, right, and maximize that with the environment I want to be in, right? I can find this kind of middle ground here in this Venn diagram to say, I can find this ideal situation, right? And there's many layers to this, but my point is never forget to see both sides, right? And when you start to think about environment, remember, we're not just talking about outside or inside, right? We're also dealing with the culture, business culture, right? The environment of that particular business. We're dealing with the atmosphere, right, of that environment. We are dealing with, do you like, the office or outside, right? All those different things. With skill set, we're dealing with, what are you proficient in, right? What comes easy, right? And what do you want to grow in, right? So when you think about your personal growth, what is it that you want to invest time in growing, so that actually while you're in that career, you are growing the things that are very important to you, that you enjoy? Because again, our ultimate goal is we want to go from skill set to some level of mastery. because mastery is where you end up making the most money possible. Because remember, the last thing I'll leave with you on, if you're new to the channel here, make sure you subscribe, like, and you comment, do all the YouTube stuff, and make sure you follow us on this channel. But listen, the last thing I want to leave you, some of you have heard me talk about this, but you have the level of muscle, right? And from muscle, we're doing the actual implementation. Then you get to the level of management where you can actually manage others. You're going to make more money if you can do that. Then you get to the level of mouth, meaning you can communicate. This is your salespeople, the people who know how to talk to people. They're going to be able to make even more money. And then you get to the highest level, which is the mind. And so for you to grow in these areas, right, to always be elevating up, the higher you go up in these different levels of value, the more money you're going to be able to make. And so the more you get to the point where you're being driven by ideas, right? And you're able to do things that are original from you, you're going to be able to generate. So it's the difference between Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who, one who was the dreamer and the idea giver, and one that was actually building and doing the work. But one of them was able to create more with the vision and the ideas, right? It's like if you go into a hotel, the people that are cleaning the rooms and really closest to the customer down here providing the muscle, they make the least. Then as you move up and people are doing management, they start making more. The people at the front desk, the people that's walking around making sure that the team is working together, they're going to make more. The people who actually sell the idea to investors about the hotel so that people can invest in that hotel and they're able to communicate about those things, they're going to make even more money. And the person whose idea it was to actually start the hotel and built the whole concept, and who has ownership because it was their vision that enlightened everyone to believe in this whole new framework of this particular area of hospitality, they're going to make even more. So this is why we want to understand these different levels of value. And in your career, you want to always be growing and advancing. You can only do that if you're doing something that you enjoy. So when you begin to combine, remembering that people only do what they want to do. So find what you want to do so you can do it well. I want to thank you all for coming to another YouTube session. I hope this is some help to you in thinking about your career journey, whether you're just starting out, whether you're starting to reinvent yourself and moving into another career, whether you're at that final stages where you're leaving the workforce and you're trying to find something to do that you enjoy, that maybe doesn't take as much time. Whatever it is, these principles will help you to do that, because we're all about you being the CEO of your life and making an executive decision every single day to be a better you and to live the life on your terms, always striving for more success. And remember, success is doing the things important to you while maintaining your happiness. I'm Michael E. Parker. Until next time, I will see you soon. Keep going out there and live the dream and the vision that you want by being the CEO of you.